That's the full quote, and it speaks to something pretty primal in every teenager. You exist in this weird limbo where you're finally beginning to understand the world, but every adult in your life is still telling you that you're just a kid and don't really understand anything. The answer usually falls somewhere in the middle, as you are starting to get some degree of footing in the world but still have a long, long way to go. This one is a spectacular teenage quote. You have these roiling emotions that are almost certainly driving the majority of your actions, and, despite often being around other teenagers who are going through the same thing, you feel that your emotions have to be bigger and more intense than theirs. Furthermore, it goes along with the prior quote about awakening, as it opens up with something akin to "you don't know what I'm going through, Dad." This one almost needs no explanation. It's cringeworthy at best, but it still speaks to something primordial about being a teenager. You think your emotions, feelings, and thoughts are more true, authentic, and intense than anyone around you. It doesn't help that Sasuke is this miserable little kid who spends most of his time around this loud, boisterous, and beaming knucklehead with boundless energy in a very literal sense. Plus, Naruto is always talking about his destiny to become Hokage, and that would certainly get under your skin when all you want to do is sulk and kill your older brother. This comes from the beginning of Sasuke taking the written portion of the Chunin exams and has become a popular meme across the internet. While it's actually a revelation for Sasuke, it's still intensely relatable for a teenager going through the struggles of high school. It applies internally and externally too. You don't understand any of your problems, your friends' problems, these math problems, the world's problems. You don't understand any problems. You just don't understand. Almost every teenager had some falling out with a friend or a romantic partner that felt like some kind of epic conclusion to a once important bond. You probably screamed, yelled, cried, or at least sent a very emotional text message or email. Here, Sasuke is battling Naruto in the final valley at the conclusion of Part 1 before leaving to join Orochimaru. Naruto has fought so hard to keep Sasuke around, but Sasuke just wants to leave and find his destiny with the aggressive Snake Man. Naruto thinks he and Sasuke have this bone-deep bond that will always keep them together, but Sasuke is sick of it and Naruto. So, he just has to sever that bond. Most of us probably didn't experience this exact situation as a teen, but we all almost certainly had to sever a bond or two. This is one of the first lines from Sasuke and it reeks of the desperation and edginess that we all strived for during our emo years. The whole second sentence is something that was said by every teen who strongly identified with Sasuke and Light Yagami from Death Note when they were just getting into anime. While this was the beginning, Sasuke ended up even edgier as time went on. This quote sounds like the type of poetry that was written directly after a breakup as a teen. It sounds like it is deep and meaningful, but just like his personality, Sasuke's words are no more than surface-level thoughts. Change is a difficult thing for many, so when Sasuke gave the perfect line for expressing our hidden emotions, we immediately used it for our status updates. If Sasuke had to go through the looking back on his childhood phase many of us have had to do, he'd cringe at lines like this. Teens certainly have a way of making all their feelings exclusive to themselves and Sasuke is no exception. While he is technically correct about Naruto, he also makes the same assumption about knowing suffering. Their whole fight plays out like teens who have just broken off their friendship and are dealing with the fallout. There is an inherent edginess about self-loathing that can be attractive. Sasuke is quiet and smart, which draws a lot of attention from his female cohorts in the village. However, he is full of himself and doesn't want to understand her feelings. It is easier to ignore and disregard feeling, both about other people and about yourself, than to address them properly. That is probably why Sasuke and Sakura end up married, because they both grow as people over the course of the series. The past being a catalyst for all of the good and bad in your life is a common edgy thing to talk about because it excuses things that you don't like in the present. While it is important to look at the past, dwelling there can keep you in a spiral. This happens to Sasuke because, even when it seems he is moving forward, he has a habit of going back to when he believed he was happier, even if it wasn't true. Is there anything edgier than saying the only goal is darkness? Sasuke clearly has a habit of speaking poetically, but when he has lines like this, it is so hard to not just scream out and say, "Then just open your eyes." Understanding the irony of someone whose power is literally their eyes talking about closing them, it is still apparent that Sasuke knows himself well enough that he could correct his darkness-filled path. He is stubborn and determined, which makes teenagers so much more difficult, especially when they have superpowers. This is quoting the "you either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain" line from The Dark Knight, but making it edgier and filled with angst. While a normal person saying this would be cause for concern, since it is a world full of ninjas that can control the elements, it is more of a possibility. If you didn't think there would be a deeply sad quote in this list of edginess and angst, you were sadly mistaken. There are so many types of edgy lines that have been attributed to Sasuke, but this one is darker than most of the others. Instead of being cool and calm, this line is said with the ferocity of a teen who has been pushed too far. It is sadly the most realistic line he says, and it would be tragic in other contexts. While the secondary trait for emo culture is basically about wanting to die, the other side of that coin is the idea of never being able to die. While someone might joke about dying to be edgy, it is also normal to hear them announcing that they refuse to die. Sasuke has no problem towing this line between challenging death and never having to face it down. He is literally on the edge of both constantly. We all thought we understood life and its intricacies as teens, only to realize that most of us had no clue what we were talking about. Sasuke is the same way. He is so sure of himself at the various points of his life that viewers get to see, but each time he moves forward on that assumption, he lands back at square one. Unlike the Avengers, Sasuke also takes the definition of the word at face value. Outside of the One Piece connection, taking the devil's fruit is such an edgy thing to say. It is surprising Sasuke didn't cut his lips with those words.